there, STEM enthusiasts! Welcome back to Cameron's Lab, Dive In, the go-to podcast for STEM students, crafted with passion by one of your own. I'm Cameron, your enthusiastic and ever-curious host. Buckle up for today's insightful episode. Ready to dive in? Hi everyone, welcome back to the Cameron's Lab podcast. Today I'm here with Noah Leigh. He's a second-year aerospace student here at Queen Mary, and he's involved in a lot of different societies, and I will do my best to remember all of them. So he is the VP for QM SEDS and also QM Knitter Natter, and he is the head of airframe at the QM Aurora Society. And also a researcher at the QM Undergrad Research Institute. So Noah, thank you so much for joining me. I'm excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Anytime. So I wanted to get off started with what got you into aerospace. So what were you thinking when you first joined it?
It's actually, for me, it started probably when I was a toddler because I used to draw rockets on the sofas with a permanent marker.
I must have loved that.
It stayed there for years until we got rid of the sofa, but I don't have any pictures. Yes, and then as well, like growing up, I would always look up to the stars, and I just wanted to be up there. You look at the moon, you want to be there. You look at the stars, you want to be there. And I thought rockets were cool.
Yeah, who doesn't think rockets are cool?
And I wanted to build them. So
very nice.
Yeah.
And then, if you could explain what aerospace engineering is for those of us like myself who don't have a really great idea of it, what is it?
It's essentially just the engineering of things that either fly in the atmosphere or in space. Because you have two branches, which is aeronautics and astronautics, and so those concern the two different space and atmosphere things.
Wow, exciting. And for those of us who already know, Noah is involved in a lot of different societies. So I just wanted to ask if you could tell us a little bit more about them. So if we could start off with maybe QM SEDS, can you tell us what it is and then what you do there?
So QM SEDS is actually just been started up this year by Emma Nicolai, a great second-year aerospace student. But that is to do with, there's an organisation called UK SEDS, which is the UK Students for the Exploration and Development of Space.
Wow.
And they run many different competitions a year. And we would have liked to be involved in more of them, but because the society took a bit longer than we thought to found, we are only involved in two this year, which are the satellite design competition, and there's one called the Olympus rover trial, which is essentially making a Mars rover. And so, as well as being vice president for that, I'm also part of the satellite design team, which is the bigger team. And for that this year, it's to monitor wildfires, because they give you a brief each year as well for the rover trial. And so this year it's to monitor wildfires and make a mock satellite for that. But yeah, it's essentially just a competition society. And now let me go into all the other ones. Aurora is another competition, like engineering competition society. That's the essentially like rocketry competition society here at Queen Mary. I joined that. I applied as soon as I came to uni, but then there was a bit of trouble because I think they lost one of their airframe members last year, and that was who I was talking to. So I only joined in January of this year. But because of my enthusiasm and motivation, I quickly rose to become team head of the airframe division. And basically with that, we build a rocket. I mean, you're part of the society as well.
Also part of the software team, everyone.
Yeah. And we build a rocket to compete in different competitions. This year, we're doing Mach 24, which is up in Scotland, and also the National Rocketry, I think it's Challenge. But the big aim for Aurora is something called EUROC, which is the European Rocketry competition, which takes place in Portugal in October, and it is highly competitive.
Yep, everyone is very excited and trying to get to go to this.
Yeah, whether we'll be able to, that remains to be seen, because at the moment we're just trying to get funding. If anyone wants to fund us.
Let us know.
Yeah, but that is really the society I love most. I've been part of it the longest, apart from the knitting society. which I joined at the beginning of last year because I wanted to learn how to knit because my mum did a degree in textiles.
Wow.
Yeah,
Cool.
and so she like makes everything for us. She made our own when we were younger. She made these big pillows, like bolster pillows essentially.
Okay.
And because you're a kid, they're like the size of you. And and so me and my brother we watched, do you know WWE?
Yeah.
So this is a
no.
bit of a tangent, but we because she made us each one.
Yeah.
And so we would lie in the living room with the sofa pillows and then fight these bolster pillows. And anyway, sorry. But and then because of that, I wanted to start knitting because I knew that my mum used to do that, and I thought it would be a nice way to come closer to her, as well as like relax because uni gets very stressful. Yeah. And I would just go week in, week out, and I met more people. And then the president, who is a third-year biomedical student called Nora, she's fantastic as well. She just asked me to be VP. Well, no, actually, I was elected VP.
It's a story, right? Yeah.
But no one else applied, and she asked me to apply.
Fair enough.
And so I'm part of that. I think you should always have something to relax with.
If I could ask you more about that. So I feel like engineering is, well, not a feeling, it's true. Engineering is very stressful, especially when you're just studying and trying to get yourself into that next position. So you mentioned you're already a member of all of these different societies, but is it more, so how do you, I guess, relax? So if you have the knitting society, what else do you like to do to kind of balance out that stressful engineering life?
That is something I'm discovering at the moment because
I
I've realized, like, I have like a big whiteboard at home and I have a to-do list on it, and on that to-do list is find out what I enjoy because I've realized I've completely forgotten because you do just get sucked into that life. But at the moment, like, knitting it's very calm and very relaxing. You don't really have to think too much. You just put on a show and then you knit. But as well, I really love film. So watching film, going to see films. I'm a member at the BFI, which is the British Film Institute.
What are you not a member of?
Well, no, but you have to pay for that. That's not. But yeah, so I get like access to premieres and stuff, which I love. And as well, I used to play a lot of games when I was younger as well, and so I haven't done that for years. So rediscovering that, I've been playing do you know Knights of the Old Republic? Okay, well, that's a Star Wars game. I've been playing that recently.
Don't cancel me, guys. Still a Star Wars fan. I just don't really play the game. That's great. So, and then we also talked about your research position. So you're working with the QM Undergraduate Research Institute. Can you tell us a bit more about what that is and also what you do there?
So that is something that has just been founded this academic year. Okay. So they're really, I don't even think there's been a launch event for it yet. Okay. But they're really trying to encourage undergraduates to get research experience, which I think is amazing. And there was a call for people to apply for their student board, like second year engineering students, so you wouldn't have, but there was a call for them to apply for a student board because they wanted students to be a part of the creation process as well as research. And I applied for that. Unfortunately, I didn't get the board position because the much better Emma got it. But it was, and I then got a message asking me to stay on as a researcher. And that is essentially what they're encouraging undergrads to do. They have a bunch of open projects that you can apply to. You go through like an interview process and then you get research experience. And it's, I mean, frankly, like invaluable for...
Really especially for, I think for engineering students, you don't get really encouraged to get these research positions when you're in first year. Second year, they start to push you a little bit more, but they're not super pushy until the end of the second year. And it's a little bit too late by then. So I think it's really good that they have this new society to try to get you guys more involved.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic as well, because, I mean, I don't know, because they kind of split it by engineering discipline. And so I'm obviously in the aerospace field. And so for me, actually my supervisor is getting involved with Aurora. which is great, and he's going to help us try and find funding and stuff. But then also there's something else where I might be trying to code my own like flight simulation and then enter that into a competition in the US.
Wow.
And but then from what I've heard from other people, they're doing some really interesting research. Like Emma has got some really interesting research going on, which I don't know if I can talk about.
Over that one.
But it's just, I think the fact that they're encouraging these undergrads to acquire these research skills is that you can't really acquire just in a normal degree, as well as get this experience in case maybe you can't find an internship or something. It's just amazing, and I'm so happy to be involved with it.
It's really exciting. Yeah. If you could, what would be, I guess, the skills that you've been able to gain from being in all these different societies that you would recommend to other undergraduate students that are looking to get more involved or looking for, like, what skills should I be building up right now? What would you say?
I think the two most important are organizational skills.
Yep.
Because I don't think I'd be able to balance. I mean, I don't even think I am balancing this, but I don't think I'd be able to balance it without having some sort of organizational skills. And I've really put myself through a trial of fire. But the other one is teamwork, and the degree at Queen Mary really emphasizes teamwork. But like, you still hear complaints from people talking about how bad their teams are, and I think especially if you're an engineer, the most important skill you're going to have is being able to work in a team. Yeah. And it seems obvious, but to me, those are the two most important ones I've learned. Obviously, I've learned a bunch of others as well, like leadership and stuff like that. But those, I think, are the most important.
100%. I feel like when you're in engineering, it's all very competitive, so it can feel very individual. But then when you actually start going into these societies and all the different internships, you realize outside of the university space, it's very collaborative. So it's good to get those teamwork skills in now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I went to a talk at the Neuron Pod the other day by Dr. Ashti Trebi-Aleni from JPL. And he talked about how a lot of the time, especially with undergraduate engineers, everyone feels like they're against each other. And it is that idea that it's so competitive. And how a lot of the time they overlook the contribution that other engineers give, but also the contribution that people like logistics people give or finance people give, because without any of them, you would not be able to do anything. And he really stressed how you're not an island. And with engineering, the most important skill you're going to learn is teamwork and collaboration.
Yeah, totally agree. I wanted to bring it back to, I guess, what kind of advice you might have for other students. So for those of us that maybe want to go into aerospace, so like yourself when you're younger, looking at the stars and thinking, I want to be up there somehow. What kind of advice would you give for, I guess, because you're a little bit closer to joining into the aerospace than I would be, but what advice would you give to students looking to get into it?
I think just don't forget why you love it, I guess. For me, there have been lots of days where everything seems so overwhelming and so stressful, and you're like, why am I even doing all of this? But at home, I have a print of a satellite image of the Earth from space. So, and each time I look to that, and I just remember why I'm doing it, or maybe there's a full moon out, and I'll just look out my window, because I think it's important, again, just to remember that the 3-year-old who wants to be in space and try and live that dream. And it can be easy to forget why you love something. So yeah.
I think that was really good advice. Thank you. Moving on to, I guess, what you want to do later. So even if you don't know exactly what position per se you want to go into, but what kind of field, or are there any things that you know that I definitely want to do this when I graduate?
Space. Space. My ultimate aim is to be there. If I say to a lot of people, if I was asked tomorrow to leave everything behind and potentially die on a trip to Mars, I would do it. Because, at least I got to go to space. Yeah. And if I could be in that industry, I would know that I'm living the dream of that 3-year-old. And there's something so rewarding about knowing that you're following your childhood dream. And like even I want to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
Even if I can't do that, I thought a rocket scientist would be a good backup.
Fair enough.
So,
Really like this idea of you thinking back to your 3-year-old self, which is also what I like to do, because like younger 3-year-old me was following my grandpa around the house, changing little outlet covers and everything, and that's why I love like robotics and all the hands-on things. So if you could give advice to, I guess, younger you to kind of pave that path for yourself, say like, how do I get from little Noah who's enjoying the stars to current Noah who's in 3-4 different societies?
I mean, my thought, there's a lot I'd wish I'd learned a bit earlier on. And I think I've had to be in my life as it's gone, I've had to be a bit more resilient with stuff than I would have hoped.
Yeah.
So I think what I'd tell him is just talk to people.
Yeah.
Because it will just make the journey so much easier. Like you have that support system around you. And at the end of the day, the most important thing is how you're feeling. So just talk to people. No one's going to judge. No one will shame. Just talk. And I would hope he'd remember that, but I'm sure he wouldn't because he's very stubborn.
Self-reflection at the end. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed talking to you. And I hope this inspires other people that are looking to get into space to try out different societies, and just remember to communicate, because people are a lot more willing to explain how to get to different places than we think. So just get out there and talk to people, and you never know what could happen next.
Use LinkedIn.
Yes, definitely. Update your LinkedIn profiles. Yeah. But thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I had such a nice time.
Hooray. Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye. Hi again, awesome listener. That wraps up another deep dive of Cameron's Lab Dive In. Before you dive back into your day, see what I did there? Take a second to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Want a behind-the-scenes look? Bonus content? Or just some good old STEM fun? Follow me on my socials, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Cameron's Lab. And remember, every episode is a new adventure, and we've got some thrilling dives lined up for you. Don't miss out! Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.